This right here is a 2-camera AI-powered webcam. And yes, this is the only 2-camera AI-powered webcam that I know of in the world. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the EMEET Pixy and see just what makes this webcam so special. Now we're going to unbox this, but doesn't that look like a robot?
I'm a robot.
It's a PTZ camera, but it kind of looks like a little robot. I mean, look at it. He's got the little eyes. He's got a little mouth or a nose if you want the green light to be a nose. But it's just a cool looking webcam. Now, I haven't even pulled it out of the box, so we're going to take a look at what's in the box for the first time together. And then we're going to run this camera through a bunch of different tests to see how it does visually and with its audio and in low light and stuff like that. So let's just go ahead and unbox this camera right now and see what all is in here. Okay, so here's the box right here. And we're going to go ahead and do the quick version of the unboxing to save some time. And there you have it. There's everything that comes in the box. You know, nothing crazy special, although there is everything you need for a webcam. And they've got this cool little card here, dual camera PTZ 4K webcam. And they put a little hand on it. I guess they also think that it looks like a little robot because it does, which I think is brilliant. So there's your quick start guide and a couple different QR codes. They also have, of course, your USB cable, which is a USB Type A to a USB Type-C end on it. So pretty nice little cable all wrapped up there. And it looks like it's a fairly good length. And then you've got your webcam, as well as this is a very hefty all metal webcam base, which is really cool. You don't see like all metal ones like this, but it not only has a threaded mount for the bottom of the webcam, this mount basically also means that you can adjust the tilt of the camera, because this can push up like this. So you can tilt it down if you want to do like a top-down shot. But also, it means that this webcam, if you look on the bottom, actually has a threaded tripod adapter. And so you can put this on any tripod or camera holder that you want to. You're not locked into just one specific type of webcam mount, which is really, really cool. And then on top of that, you have your nice little instruction booklet here that tells you all about the webcam. And it looks like just the first few pages are instructions, and then there's a bunch of different languages, as well as a 2-year limited warranty. And so that's everything that comes in the box. But if we take a look at the webcam here, you'll notice that there is this little round base. It's got some rubber on the bottom just for traction in case you have this thing sitting on a desk or something like that. There are 3 holes on the top of the camera, which are actually their microphone array. There's a 3-way microphone array, or a 3-microphone array up there. And then you've got your 2 camera lenses right here on the front. We're going to talk about these more here in just a minute, but there are actually 2 cameras on this little guy. And then it is a PTZ camera, so it can pan and tilt up and down, and then, of course, look around. So there's your pan and then your tilt. And then because of the stand, because you can put this on the stand and push it forward, then it can actually look straight down like that. And so you can have this thing looking down, or you can push it if you want it to be mounted straight up like that and looking at you like a normal webcam. So pretty cool little design. I love the fact that it looks like a little robot, and the fact that they've integrated AI into this camera is just even more perfect for this design aesthetic. So it kind of does look like a little robot buddy that you're going to have on top of your monitor or sitting on a tripod or something. So anyway, there is the overall look and feel of the camera. But let's dive in and take a look at what this thing can actually do. As I was actually getting ready to plug this thing in, I undid the cable, and I also noticed that this is actually a USB-C to USB-C cable with a USB-C to USB-A adapter on it. So it actually comes with a C to C cable, and then they include the adapter in case you need to plug this into a USB Type A port, which I really appreciate because that is how I'm going to plug this in. So kudos to EMEET for giving us a very flexible connection option. Now, as I'm getting ready to plug this little guy in, I do want to give a special shout out and thank you to EMEET for sponsoring this video and sending us this camera to look at and to share with you guys, because we love checking out new streamer equipment over here on the EagleGarrett channel. And this is a pretty awesome little webcam. They're really kind of pushing to that next level by adding 2 cameras. And when you find out what those cameras are for, it'll make all the sense in the world. But we're going to go ahead and set this up and switch over to this camera. And you'll no longer be looking at me through my DSLR setup, but we'll do the rest of the video using the EMEET Pixy. Okay, guys, I've run into a slight issue, and I think it's really more a firmware update issue, or a firmware update would fix the issue rather than it is, you know, a problem with the camera, so to speak. But right now, I'm having trouble getting a good picture and getting good frames at the same time. And I know that the camera is able to produce good frames because if I turn on auto exposure, which I'll do now, you can see that the frames instantly get better, and I'm moving around smooth as can be. But the moment I turn on or turn off auto exposure, now we drop to like no frames whatsoever. And the problem with the camera that I'm running into, and again, I think this is a firmware update that's going to fix this, but the problem that I'm running into is that the auto exposure is way too bright. It is tuned way too bright. So when I turn the auto exposure off, if I'm really still, you can see how good the image on this camera can look. However, if you have bad frames, this is going to kind of ruin how good the image on a camera like this can look. And so really, I think EMEET just needs to make some adjustments to the firmware on the camera and maybe the software side of things. But using the software, if I turn off auto exposure, I'm able to get a really, really good looking image. I just can't get good frames on it for some reason. And I've tried a bunch of different things. I'm going to reach out to EMEET and see if there is a way to fix this. But for the meantime, I'm going to turn on auto exposure and then readjust all the levels and then let EMEET know what's going on. Because again, this camera, they are still working and updating and doing that sort of thing with the software and the firmware. So it's probably going to be a fairly simple fix. But let's go ahead and use the camera in a way that will pick up our frames a little bit and still look okay. It's just going to not look as good as this does. EagleGarrett from the future here, jumping into the video to let you guys know that since I recorded this, I have reached out to EMEET. I told them about the problem. They've looked into it, and they are working on a solution and a fix for it that should be out in one of their next updates that's coming out very soon. So they said until then, the best way to use the camera is with auto exposure turned on like we do in the rest of this video. However, that won't be the case forever. They are fixing it, and then you will be able to use the manual exposure settings and dial in the exact look and picture that you want. And the camera looks fantastic once you get into those fine details and you're really able to customize it. So want to let you guys know that's great news. And now we can jump back into the rest of the video. I want to go ahead and tell you guys about this camera, some of the features this camera has, and while I'm going through that, we'll just do some B-roll of this camera so that you have something cool in the background while we read through it. But this camera is the world's first dual camera AI PTZ 4K webcam, and the AI comes into play when it comes to the autofocus, which we'll test here in a minute, as well as the tracking capabilities. Now, the dual camera configuration allows autofocus to happen in 0.2 seconds, which again, we'll test in a minute, but that is super, super fast. And so as long as it can hit that autofocus consistently and not do, you know, the focus breathing thing in and out where it's kind of trying to find focus, then that's going to be a massive, massive, massive win for a webcam of this caliber. Now, one of the cameras within this webcam is a 4K camera that goes up to 30 frames a second, and the other is an AI assisted camera. So that's where the AI comes into play. That other camera, that second camera, uses AI not only to track, but also to find focus faster. It's kind of dedicated for those purposes. Now, this camera also optimizes facial imaging even when backlit. So that means that it's going to focus on making your face look right rather than the background, even if there's a light behind you, which is a really cool feature, and we might test that here in just a minute. The sensor inside of this camera is a 1/2.55-inch Sony sensor. The AI-assisted camera can detect facial contours and automatically adjust things like exposure to make sure your face is always looking good. So again, that AI camera is really there to do some of the heavy lifting so that the 4K camera can just focus on resolution itself. Now, the field of view of this camera is 73 degrees, so not the widest field of view. However, that seems to be kind of the standard for most webcams, and so it is going to be the same field of view that you're probably used to if you've had a webcam prior to this. Now, again, like I mentioned earlier, this camera has AI-driven auto tracking, so not only is the AI autofocus going into play through that second lens, but so is the tracking, and it's going to make tracking, it should make tracking a lot more accurate and a lot speedier. This camera also has a 3-mic array with 3 levels of noise cancellation, which we'll go through here in a minute. There is a physical privacy mode by just tilting the camera downwards. So I'll show you guys what that looks like, but if you just tilt the camera down, then it is going to go into privacy mode and look at itself as well as shut the camera off, which is a really cool feature because then you know for sure your camera is off. But the next thing that I want to test is the autofocus capabilities of this webcam. And the best way that we can do that is to autofocus on this little brochure. So I'm going to hold it up in front of the camera and we're going to see how quickly it can acquire focus, whether it does any focus breathing, and then how quickly it can acquire my face after I remove this little brochure. So here we go. Pretty fast. Back on me. Pretty quick. It seems to be doing a pretty good job. Now I do notice when it's focusing up close, it's pretty smooth, but watch what happens when I take this away. It's almost like it zooms out and then it hesitates for just a split second and then it zooms out the rest of the way, or it focuses the rest of the way. So that may be something that can be adjusted as well. It could be that the auto exposure is basically quickly adjusting the exposure. And so that's what that little hiccup is whenever you autofocus in. But look, when I move this back and forth, it's grabbing focus on this brochure extremely quickly. And it doesn't seem to be any, hiccups there. It's just right there. And I think that is the auto exposure. So once they fix the auto exposure issue and we can turn auto exposure off, then you can set it to the exposure that's best for your lighting environment. And then whenever you zoom in and out, you will not have that little hiccup that happens like what you saw right there. And it's basically just trying to adjust. But that is a really quick, I will say this, that is a very quick auto exposure adjustment. So some of the other webcams that I've ever used or tested, the auto exposure is a little bit more prominent. It takes a second to get there. This one does it really fast. It just looks like there's a little hiccup when you're going from zoomed in and focused close to focused out. And so anyway, something that again can be fixed once they fix the auto exposure issue. Now let's try the auto tracking feature of this webcam. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on. Let's see what happens. Not bad at all. So the camera does tend to be a little high. Like right now it is focusing on my face in the center of the screen. However, let's see if we can adjust that. Okay, so I'm trying to adjust the camera down to get it a little bit more like upper body, but it wants to put my face in the middle of the camera. So what that means is it is auto tracking me, but the auto tracking is keeping my face in the center of the screen rather than trying to center my whole body in the screen. So it is tracking me pretty well. And I will say when I'm close to it, that's when it puts my face in the middle of the screen, it looks like. But when I'm walking around, it tends to kind of center a little bit better on my body. So I guess it depends on how close to the camera you are. Okay, so the auto tracking is pretty good in the sense that it did follow me around and it kept tracking me. Even when I went behind my chair and I bent down, I got back up and walked away. It reacquired me and it followed me. However, when you're up close to it, as we noticed, it kind of puts my head in the center of the frame. And so this is going to, it's going to feature your face, but it's going to look a little bit disproportionate to the rest of your body. This is something that could be easily fixed if they add a feature within the software that allows you to position where you want the camera's default tracking to be. So for instance, once you turn on tracking mode, you could have a preset kind of basically proportions, like if you want your head to be a little bit towards the top of the frame rather than right in the center. They could do something like that, or even allow you to adjust the initial state of the camera, then hit tracking and it stay locked in that state, but just track you at that point. So it's something that can be fixed with a firmware and software update, but tracking did seem to be right on, other than some of those little things that I noticed. Okay, so the next thing we want to test is the Pixy's built-in microphones. Now, in order to test these, I've got the Pixy sitting on top of my monitor at a pretty normal distance that a person would be away from their monitor. So we're going to see how this camera picks up audio if I'm talking to you at the same level that I'm talking into this microphone. However, we're just going to switch to these microphones and see what they sound like. All right, EagleGarrett from the even more distant future, and as I was editing this video, I actually had to come back and re-record the sound test of the microphones for some various reasons, mostly on my end of things, but now I am testing the built-in microphone on the EMEET Pixy, and there's actually a 3-mic array system within this webcam, so they have a couple of different modes. They've got a live mode, they have a noise-canceling mode, and then a original sound mode, and basically all they are 3 different variations of the noise cancellation within this camera. But I wanted you guys to hear what the mic sounds like without any noise, and then I'm going to turn on some crowd noise on my phone and we're going to see what that sounds like with me talking. So right now we're in live mode, which is kind of their general noise cancellation. So I'm going to go ahead and start the audience in the background, which sounds like this. And I'm just going to set that down here on my desk, and it sounds like there's a crowd in my room now, and it's kind of hard for me to talk. It would be like if I was standing in a room with a bunch of people around and I was trying to talk to an individual so they could hear me. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. However, we'll see what the video sounds like using this noise cancellation mode. I'm also going to go ahead and switch it into noise canceling mode, which is the higher tier strong noise cancellation. And now we're in the strong noise cancellation mode. And let me know, did that cut out even more sound? Does it sound better than it did before? Maybe a little bit more processed, but maybe not as much noise going on in the background. And then I'm going to switch over to the original sound mode right now, which is their light version of the noise cancellation. And so you probably can hear a little bit more background noise with this mode. But most of the time you're not going to use a webcam like this in a really noisy environment anyway. So with that being said, I'm going to switch back to live mode. Here we are in live mode. And let me know your thoughts on the noise cancellation. Do you think it did a good job? What are your use cases for that? Are you going to use noise cancellation at all? Most likely, I would expect noise cancellation to come in handy if you're trying to block out like an air conditioner or a fan or something like that. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about how the mic system on the EMEET Pixy performed. Okay, so the next test that I wanted to do was the low light test, and I basically turned off all of the lights in the room that are main lights. So the only lights on right now are my computer monitors, which are mostly black screens, and then I've got the red accent lights behind me. But other than that, there are no other lights on my face. There are no other lights in this room. It's pretty dark in here. And if you want to see what it really looks like, I will switch over to my main camera. And this is about as dark as it is. In fact, let me go ahead and give you a little look from our bird's eye view. This is pretty much an accurate representation of how dark in here it really is. This is a very, very dark environment. You should not really be able to see me that well at all. Even with this really, really, really expensive camera, you could barely see me. So if we turn this camera off, this is my main camera. Let's go ahead and turn the EMEET back on. Look how much brighter I am with the EMEET on. And this is actually without low light and enhance turned on. So this is just the auto exposure. And I left all of my settings the same way. I haven't changed anything on the camera. Now, when I turn on low light enhance, it should get even brighter. There we go. I turned on low light enhance and it got even brighter without me changing anything on the webcam. Now, are you ever going to use a webcam in this dark of an environment? Probably not, or at least you shouldn't. You should have some type of lighting source on your face because it is going to make a webcam look exponentially better. However, you can see that even in a pretty badly lit or non-lit scenario, you can still see really, really well. This webcam is doing a phenomenal job in low light, and that's something that EMEET has been really good at in some of the other cameras that I've tested by them is really crazy low light performance. And I'm sure that if I was to adjust the brightness and do other things, I could make it look even brighter than this. But for how little light there is in this room, you're still actually getting quite a bit of detail. And you know, even though it's kind of a little fuzzy and stuff because literally there's no light in here, the fact that you can even see me is pretty crazy. Okay, so the other thing that I want to test is the backlight performance of this camera. And the way that we're going to do that is I'm basically going to stand up and I've got a light behind me that's lighting up kind of, you know, it's the rim light. It's lighting up around the edges of my head, but we're going to leave that in the background and I'm going to stand in front of it. And then we're going to see how this camera handles extreme backlighting. Okay, so this camera should be keeping my face, and you notice I've got an extremely bright light behind me. This camera should be keeping my face as the priority, which means that even with the bright light behind me and, you know, shining through my face, I'm trying to get in the right position here, it should still be prioritizing my face rather than anything else. And as you can see, my face doesn't really look like it's changed all that much. I mean, you can see the light behind me, but even when the light behind me is right there next to me, it's keeping my face the same pretty much. I mean, now again, if we had the auto exposure turned off and we had the same exposure levels, then it would be a little bit different, I'm sure, but right now it is still keeping my face about the same. This is pretty good backlighting control if you ask me from a webcam perspective, because that's like a direct light source. And so, yeah, you don't even have to worry about backlighting if you've got a window behind you or a light or things like that. It's going to do a good job of trying to balance out you versus how much light is behind you. Now, the last thing I want to show you guys is EMEET Studio, which is the software that controls the EMEET Pixy webcam that we've been looking at. Okay, so here is EMEET Studio, and this is the software I've been using to control the camera this entire time. And normally your camera preview would pop up right here in this box, but because I am recording into OBS and I'm using the webcam into OBS, then it says camera is occupied. It can't show in the two places at the same time. However, you can see that this right here is your PTZ control. So not only can you, move the camera around using this, but you also have preset positions where you've got 1, 2, and 3. And once you set a position, you can click on it and it's going to go back to that preset position, which is an extremely nice feature. There's also a zoom feature right here, but it says that it's unavailable at 4K or 1080p at 60 frames a second. So you have to be at 1080p 30 frames a second or below in order to use this, I would assume. And then also, of course, you can set your initial position for the camera, as well as you can set your 3 different, presets here. Or you can just restore to the default and then you can rearrange how you want the positions to be. Up here at the very top, there's 3 different modes. The standard mode, which is what I'm in right now, where it basically just stays in one position unless you move it around. There's tracking mode, which if you click on this one, that goes into the tracking mode we looked at earlier. And then there is privacy mode, which if I turn this on, it's going to look straight down and turn my camera off. So you saw how my screen went off. And then at the same time, the camera actually looked downward. So I can tell that not only is the video feed cut off, but the lens itself is not looking at me. It's looking straight down at its own self. So anyway, we'll go back to standard mode here. There we go. And then down here at the bottom, you've got your 3 audio modes, which we tested earlier: live mode, noise canceling mode, and original sound mode. And so there's how you turn those on. Live mode is what you're going to leave it in unless you need the noise cancellation. And then over here at the top of the screen, you'll see your effects tab, which is where you're going to have your low light enhance that we used. You can also select a preset, one of these presets of the way the camera looks, or you can go to customize, which is where I went. And that's where I adjusted all of the, brightness and contrast. And this is your auto exposure. So this is where whenever I turn that on, that's where we start having the loss in frames. But if you leave auto exposure on, then it works just fine until they get that update done, as well as, tone and saturation and white balance and all that sort of thing. I also turned auto white balance off. You can turn it on. For me, it looked a little bit bluer than I would like it, so I turned it off and it made things look a little bit more natural. Now you also have the assistance tab where you can focus on, you know, your focus metering? Do you want it to focus on your face? Do you want it to focus on the central area, or on selectable areas? So you can pick any one of those metering modes and those focus modes, as well as autofocus. You can turn that on or off. If you want the focus to be only at one focal length, you can turn this off. But I do recommend, especially with how good the autofocus seems to be in this camera, leaving autofocus on. You have your privacy mode, where it will automatically go into privacy mode after one of these predetermined amounts of time, or you can hit never, which is what it's on by default, and then you yourself can put it into privacy mode by either tilting the camera downward or by going over here and selecting privacy mode from this drop down under control. There's also gesture controls. If you want to control the tracking of this camera by using your hand, you can turn on gesture controls. And there's also an auto rotate when upside down. So if you turn this on, then when you turn the camera upside down, it will actually auto rotate the image to be right side up. And so that's a cool feature to have as well. Other than that, you've got your preview window over here. You can select what resolution you want your preview window to be at. You can also rotate your video, you can mirror it, do that sort of thing. Down here at the bottom, you can turn the preview on and off. If you want the simplified version of the app, you can just turn that off there. As well as it'll tell you what mode the device is in. Right now it's just in normal mode. And then you've got some filters down here and your audio options. And so monitoring, and as well as the microphone volume, that sort of thing. So the other thing that I want to mention about this software is you do get something called script generation. And if you click on this, it is going to take you into an AI-driven script writing feature. And so you can go in here and tell it what kind of shooting type you're going to do, whether it's universal, daily vlog, entertainment, lifestyle, knowledge, emotion, business, and then also the duration. Then up here, you can select your different modes, and then you can type out what you want the script to be about. And it says here, like, please enter your script creation requirements in this input box to start a new creation conversation. And it's going to ask you questions, and then it's going to pull from different AI models. And so they mention things like ChatGPT or Gemini or some of these different AI models that it will pull from in order to help you write your script for your video. And this is a really cool thing to see integrated. They even have parameters here. So storyboard quantity, camera positions, number of characters, and the fact that they are integrating this into the software to try and make content creation easier for the creator is really cool, because now instead of having to go out to a third-party app, you can play around with this and potentially write up your script without ever having to leave the EMEET Studio software. You can also record directly from this app down here by pressing this button. And up here in the top right hand corner, you've got your virtual camera as well as your toolbar, which you can click, and it actually brings a little toolbar like this up. And so this is to control your camera, but also put it down at the bottom of your screen so that you've got all your screen space available for other things. And then if you want to bring it back up, you just hit the full size thing, and there is the software right where you left it. So guys, there you have it. That is the EMEET Pixy, a brand new webcam from EMEET, and all of the cool features that it has. Once they get that issue with the frame rate and the auto exposure fixed, I think this camera is going to be a really, really good offering if you want a PTZ camera that has tracking functionality, as well as a really nice suite of software features. So with that being said, you guys make your determination on this camera. It comes in right now at $159.99 MSRP. And, you know, comparatively to a lot of the other webcams on the market, that is a really good deal for all the features that they're cramming into a camera like this. So anyway, if you want more information about the EMEET Pixy, I do have affiliate links down in the description to both Amazon and the EMEET website, and you can learn more about the camera, or if you choose to buy one of these, then it does support this channel as well. So consider doing that. I would greatly appreciate it. But either way, you guys, let me know in the comments what you think about the EMEET Pixy and what you're most excited about with this new PTZ camera, as well as how good you think the autofocus is and some of the other features that we took a look at. Now, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was a help to you. If you liked the video, hit that thumbs up button for me, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you want to know when videos like this go live. You can also find me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/EagleGarrett if you'd like to come hang out with me, shoot the breeze, or ask questions about any of these videos I do. Swing on by my stream. I'd love to have you with us. You can also find all my social media linked below, as well as links to the EMEET Pixy down in the panel of this channel, so check that out. And last but not least, you can go to EagleGarrett.com to not only see my merch, but also find out anything you need to know about EagleGarrett or what we got going on the internet. So with that being said, until the next video, rock on, peace out, God bless, and last but not least.
Your opponent is going for a capture.
Payback. Avenger.
Capture in progress. Hold your ground.
Ready? Watch this. Watch this.
Double kill.
Oh! In the air!